meeting tonight with public comment. This is the time to comment on any matter, agenda or non-agenda, falling within the scope of the Billings City Council. Please remember the rules are you may speak once only for each item during the meeting. We require you to sign in so that we have it for the minutes, along with, I think, the location of where you live. And you will have 3 minutes to speak your mind. So please come forward and tell us who you are.
Oh, got a green light now. Item 2 and 4. Hopefully tonight you'll take the opportunity to put a few more tools in the toolbox when it comes to this noise issue, and I think that's hopefully what we can get done here. As far as item 4, I don't know quite where that's going, but one of the things that here we are with an ordinance change that is going to significantly affect people. Back to the letter hopefully you received from on the Pittman item, that there's going to be no public comment on an item that will significantly impact people after the comment on the aggressive driving. It's going to be huge. So I'm just going to read you this quote. It's geared more towards the legislature, but I think there's enough parallels in here. Maybe some of you will respond to this. It says, in the heat of a tightly structured 90-day session, legislatures ought to identify issues they want to study in more depth. The interim offers you more measured opportunity to research, meet with subject matter experts, listen to the public's perspectives on critical and complex issue. It allows you to find problems, explore alternatives, seek solutions, and propose and test ideas. Which goes right back to the public comment. You don't think there's people out in the community that would have input that, if given the opportunity, they could show up and provide some expertise to you? And not just this matter, but other matters that you do at the work session. The legislature recognizes the interim is where the heavy loads get lifted. And that's really what happens here in most work sessions. I've been to a lot of them. And this is where the heavy work takes place, and the business meetings is sort of the rubber stamp. And so the people don't really have that opportunity. So hopefully under Councilman Pittman's initiative, if that avenue opens up, hopefully you'll explore that and allow the public to comment at these work sessions, at the agenda item, and during that agenda item. Thank you.
Hi, good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. My name is John Brewer. I'm the president and CEO of the Billings Chamber of Commerce. And Councilman Kennedy, happy early St. Paddy's Day to you. I wanted to speak on behalf of the airport governance structure. As you know, we have a contract that manages Visit Billings and Visit Southeast Montana. So I'm coming from the perspective of not only the quality of life for our residents, but also from the business and tourism economy and the importance of the success of the future of our airport relating to the industry in our community. As a member of the Airport Governance Advisory Committee, I'm here to speak to the ongoing and thorough engagement process that's been occurring. There is a 10-person advisory committee that has met in person and virtually on several occasions for several hours. And it's meeting to better understand the different governance structures that exist. Additionally, there's been several stakeholder interviews and outreach throughout our community by both the airport and their consultants. And one of the takeaways, the top takeaways for me anyway, on those citizens and community stakeholder meetings has been just the sincere and significant leadership that we have at our airport and the great work that Director Roach is doing right now. I also wanted to mention that in our study and understanding of airports throughout Montana and the country, that we are one of a few in the country that is really a city, county, or state governed airport. Most are authorities. So every large airport in the state of Montana is an authority that is not governed by a local county, city, state. other than Billings. And of the 5 aspirational city visits that we've attended, where we've looked at other communities, their best practices for operation, of those 5 cities, 4 of those are an authority. Only 1 was operated by the city. So just wanted to encourage you to understand, to look, and to make the right decision as we move forward in understanding this governance structure. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tom Ripsis, 105 Legends Way. It's nice to see you all again tonight. First time back speaking since I left Councilman O'Donnell to fill that seat, and it's nice to be back to talk about something that was something that I focused on a lot over the last 4 years. In fact, I can't think of any issue that got reported to me more often over my 4 years on council than aggressive driving and specifically noise on the West End. It is really a problem. And in looking at the annual police report that was just submitted and presented to you all last week, 7 out of the 10 most accident-prone intersections in Billings are in Ward 5 on the West End there. So it's something that is near and dear to my heart. I would like to encourage you to support the ordinance this evening and next week or whenever it comes back for adoption. But to really just consider that as a starting point. It's not going to do anything if we just let the police issue tickets, but not back it up. The police already have, we already have ordinances against cell phones. Anybody see anybody driving around with cell phones? An ordinance itself is not sufficient. We need to have education. We need to have signage. Signage is cheap. Put up signs educating people that, there are noise ordinances and to go quiet in residential areas. We need to think about escalators in residential areas, especially arterials that go through residential areas. We have a lot of those out in our area as well. Support this ordinance. It's a good tool for law enforcement to use, but it's really just the bare minimum. It's just the starting point. We have to look beyond this and putting together a community that puts some muscle behind the ordinance and really focuses on this. It's a quality of life issue for people on the West End. Can't encourage you to do anything more that I can do to help. Happy to do it. But thank you.
Hi. Oh, can you hear me? Hi, my name's Kim Curtis, and I want to thank Mike, Chris, and Tony, my council members. I live on 38th Street West, and I can tell you the noise and the cars have gotten bad. I've been out there for 4 years. So in the last 2 years, it has gotten even worse because Town Pump on the corner of King and Shiloh has allowed these kids, I've got pictures if anybody wants to see them congregating there, to hang out there, rev up their cars for hours. They don't go there just to get gas. They're hanging out. I talked to the main guy from Town Pump, came to visit me last week. I said, you guys need to do something because my husband and I, our quality of life, I have to wear earplugs at night. And these cars have, if you've seen how modified they've gotten with their mufflers, the loudness. So I'm a block away from Shiloh, 2 blocks away from King, and it has gotten awful. So I would appreciate you guys passing the ordinance. It would be great for the for us that live out there. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Jeff Kettleson. I live in the 5th Ward at 489 South 44th Street. Recently, I wanted to do some investigation on the downtown business improvement district, and I went to their website and I was looking for the information that I thought I would be able to find there, and I couldn't find any. So I had to go to the city clerk last Friday and fill out a Freedom of Information request, looking for the information that I was looking for. And doing that, that takes city time. It makes the clerk work. she looked and she can't find it either. So she made a request to the people that maybe might be able to show it up. I've been to the Park District Board meeting. I've been to the Library Board meeting. I've been to a lot of board meetings, and most of them have agendas that are posted on our city website and the minutes that are posted on the website. The Building Business Improvement District does not. So I started looking, and I think I found something that's concerning. The TIF districts don't post their agendas, and they don't post their minutes on our website. What's even more grating is we don't even put down the times that these people meet on our calendar. Now, I know that the city has to post legal notices, and I see the legal notices, and I go to the meetings, but I really don't understand. I don't understand why this type of information isn't on our website. Maybe it's an overlook. You know, I know they're going through some changes, whatever. But the TIF districts, they provide reports and recommendations to the city council relating to the urban plan and administration of the districts. They present annual reports and budgets. They allocate our TIF funds. They also propose amendments. So tonight, I'm asking you for the South Billings Boulevard, the East Billings Urban Renewal, the Billings Business Improvement District, the Downtown Billings Association, and the Downtown Billings Partnership, that those organizations be added to our calendar and the agendas and the minutes be posted on our city website. That way we'll have more transparency. Thank you very much.
Is there any other public comment tonight? Any other public comment? Seeing none, we'll close that part of our meeting and we will move to item 1 on the agenda, the Airport Authority presentation.
It's a pleasure to be here with you. And thank you for the opportunity, Mayor and Council, to present on the airport governance project and the ongoing initiative we have. And thanks, John, for the kind words about the process as well so far. I don't know if you have anything to start off, but I'll go through our agenda here today. So ultimately, we're going to be just providing an overview of what this project is, the phases of the projects and the tasks involved, as well as the schedule itself and where we're at here today. Following this meeting, we will be reaching out to each of you to also schedule stakeholder input initiative meetings that will allow us to garner your feedback and related to the airport's operation today, and also be able to address maybe some specific questions at that time. After the entire project, we'll be coming back to the council at the end of phase 1 to report out the findings and the recommendations from the governance committee itself. With that, I'd just like to share a couple of words about the firm. Our firm was founded in 2011, and since then, we've done numerous airport government review assignments, as well as numerous transitions in governing models, and really are leaders in this area in the industry. Our firm focuses solely on airport management consultation. So we bring quite a bit of experience to this particular assignment, and we feel like this assignment really is supported by the city itself, and we work hand in hand with Chris and Jeff and their team to be able to get all the information that we need about the operation of the airport today, and we're using that to present out to the committee and comparing what are the best practices in the industry itself. So the governance project is split into 3 phases. Right now we're in phase 1, which is that governance recommendation phase where we're reviewing the model, evaluating all the data and information and we'll go through the specific tasks of that here momentarily. But then after phase 1, we'll be coming back to the council, and at that point there will be a decision by the council on what change, if any, the council would like to make to the current governing model. Should there be a decision to make changes, then we would go into phase 2, identify as a governance transition, which would implement the recommendations from phase 1. That process is a little bit more lengthy, I'll talk about some of the elements of that, but ultimately there would be a request to the FAA for a new airport operating certificate if you do decide to change. So that application would have to be developed, and then we'd have to address any questions the FAA has as well at that time. And phase 3 is designed to provide some post-transition support to that new governing model if there's a change, and just helping in the standing up of that model itself and some of the initial meetings that the governing model will have to have in the operation of the airport and the oversight of it. So the objective of phase 1 is to evaluate the current model against alternative models, and specifically we've been asked to look at the airport authority model. As John had mentioned, all of the other commercial service airports in the state of Montana are operated through an airport authority model. So we've been brought in to evaluate that and looking at what is going to be the most advantageous airport governing model for your community and for the operation of the airport going into the future. And through the governing committee, we'll be forming recommendations to present out to the board, the council, that is. So we started off back at the tail end of October, or early November, and started working with John and Chris and the team to be able to gather all of the information that we needed from the city to evaluate the operation of the model. We've been continuously going through that information since that time, and then have been working with the Airport Governance Advisory Committee to go through that information. Now, we're not all the way through that today. On the next slide here, we have a financial review task that we are still going through. But as was mentioned, the stakeholder input initiative is incorporating lots of different interviews with various stakeholders. So in addition to the committee, who we have been working very closely with, we've also scheduled numerous meetings with the Aviation and Transit Board members, airport employees, as well as several tenants of the airport as well, to understand their specific perspective on the operation and the governing model itself. On the financial review and transition cost estimate, there is some work to be done on really evaluating what are the costs going to be associated with the transition. We know there could be a few different things there, so we're diving into the details of that currently and working with the committee to present those out. Another task that's really important is the legislative review. So for every single state law determines the specifics as to the governing model that local municipalities can adopt and implement to be able to operate airports. And it changes from state to state. So it's really important to first address, is there a possibility for the city of Billings to adopt a new model if it so chooses? And throughout the process, I've been working very closely with Jeff to update him as to what the research has been, and that we're ongoing, as well as what's going to be presented out into the future as well. So that's the executive briefings. And at the conclusion of it all, we'll wrap up all of the findings into a final report and presentation. I would like to acknowledge here on this slide the members that are on the Airport Governance Advisory Committee today. You'll see here that we have 2 members from the Aviation and Transit Board, Big Sky Economic Development, Visit Billings, the Chamber of Commerce, 2 members from City Council. Chris and Jeff are also a part of the committee as well. So this is the group and the representatives from the community that we've been working very closely with during this process. So they have been charged to help us through a structured dialogue deliberate upon the airport governing models on behalf of the city and the airport, and assessing the feasibility and the benefits of changing the model. And as I said a couple of times, really we're looking for the committee to help form the recommendations on behalf of the community that we'll present back to the council. As we're going through this review, there are 3 really broad-based considerations for the case for a change. And ultimately, there's the case for governance change, which there's a few bullet points within it that's really evaluating the performance of the airport under the existing model and other models that are available to your community. Will it enhance the ability to achieve certain business goals or strategic initiatives that the airport has? Is it allowing for additional regional perspective and participation? And what's the economic impact and the overall stakeholder interest in the case for the governance change itself? We're also taking lessons learned and the best practices from the industry as to how we're seeing other airports being operated and what are the trends in the industry as a whole. And certainly there are going to be legal opportunities and constraints to change, institutional, political, and financial opportunities and constraints to change as well that all need to be factored into is changing the model going to be the best thing for your community and for the operation of the airport going into the future. So that summarizes phase 1 as to what we are doing currently. Here is phase 2. So it's multifaceted in that one of the first things that needs to be done is identifying the specifics of the operating structure itself and developing a plan for the transition to get to that new model. And then we'll work to develop that FAA application, as I had mentioned earlier, which we will kick off with some early dialogue with the FAA. And that's going to involve offices out of DC, your regional office, as well as your airport's district office more locally. And we'll work with all of those partners to be able to address their questions and the information that they're going to want to see here in phase 2. A little bit separate from that, we'll have to be working very closely with the city to address any services agreements, assignment assumption agreement, and other governing documents that are going to be necessary to effectuate the change to the new model. Once that's all done and the approval comes through from the FAA, then you will officially change the airport sponsorship to that new model. And it's at that point that new model can actually take effect and actually start overseeing it on behalf of the community. So it is a little bit of a lengthy process, and we'll talk about the schedule here shortly. In phase 3 is a little bit of, I would say, a catch-all as to possible needs for that authority board. Though we don't know the specifics on what those needs might be today, there is some resource here provided for us to be able to work with the new authority governing body in phase 3. So this is a schedule that breaks down all 3 phases. As I said, we kicked it off in October, and we will be presenting out recommendations by the end of May to the council. From there will be a decision point before phase 2 would get started, and that would be approximately a 12-month period to transition the governing model. I would say, looking at where we're at today, a possible, let's say, transition date would probably be actually like July of 2027, just as to all the things that would be necessary to stand up that new model. And this is just an estimated schedule, subject to change obviously depending on the decision of the council to move forward. And here are some of the details of where we're at in phase one. There's been numerous meetings of the committee. Here we have the council work session identified in March, and we're going to be wrapping up the financial review and transition cost estimate and reporting that out to the committee in April. From there, we'll be able to start to form the recommendations with the committee and work out some of the details thereof to be able to include in the final report and then the presentation. With that, I would like to open it up to any initial questions that the council may have today.
Any questions? Mr. Boyette.
So you intend on visiting with each one of us independently? Is that what you said?
Yes, yeah, we would like to, just as we have done with the Aviation and Transit Board and some of the other stakeholders, be able to meet with everyone individually. And we have a series of questions that we'd like to go through to understand your perspective on the operation of the airport and the governing model.
And then lastly, what weight would that do to you? So two of us say no and everyone else says okay, what difference would it make then, our opinion?
Well, I think it's important for us to be able to report out the trends overall as to what stakeholders and the community wants regarding the model. So what we'll do is incorporate all that information and report that out through the committee and in the form of trends. We're not going to be calling out any individuals as to what they're sharing, but we do want to share the overall perspective as to like what we are hearing regarding it.
Ms. Aguirre?
Thank you. Excuse me. Forgive my inexperience in this, but can you help me understand who the stakeholders are?
There's various stakeholder groups. So, and I would say if we were to categorize them right now, we have an airport employee group, we have tenants of the airport and users of the airport. We have regional business partners that largely is made up of the Chamber of Commerce, Visit Billings, and some of those that are participating on the committee, and we've met with them individually as well. And then, of course, the Aviation and Transit Board and the City Council, if I were to group those right now.
Mr. Pittman?
Just a couple of things, just to follow up on the statement of meeting with us individually, but all on the same topic. That you can't do that. Montana law, that would be a chain meeting. So we either have to meet like this or you can't meet with each of us individually. Just as a side note, you probably didn't know that for Montana
I would
law.
have to defer to your legal counsel regarding that. I'm sorry.
Anyway, so yeah, you can refer to her. The other question I had was with this, do we need to involve either the federal or any of our state delegation or elected officials in the process of all of this?
So I would say no, and the reason being is there's already existing state law related to the operation of airports. So unless the council would like to make a change to state law, then I don't think it's needed to do so.
Follow up, but didn't you say at some point it has to be approved federally?
So the FAA is not really a law; they're a regulatory body, and so 14 CFR Part 139 is the operation of airports. And as part of that, there's a requirement for every commercial service airport like yours to have an operating certificate from the FAA. So in order to get that operating certificate, you do need to apply for it. And it's that application process to change from your existing airport sponsorship, as they call it, to a new airport sponsor is why they would be engaged.
Mr. Neese?
Thank you. Just so the council knows, I only just got on this board, have not been to any of their official meetings, but the consultants did meet with me to go over a lot of the information that the board had, a lot of the minutes and stuff. So I appreciate them taking the time to get me mostly caught up on what was there. Wasn't participating in the conversation, but I look forward to the meetings that we're going to have. I think this, as we consider this, as I look at this as a really big picture of the regional type area and what we can do as a city. And so it's bigger than the city of Billings because we do service so many people around the region. like in our hospitals, but we can do that with the airport as well. I'm not saying I'm not convinced. I'm still looking for both the benefits of keeping it as a city and keeping it and going to an authority. And I think that's what we have to look at is what do we want? What's the best in class in our minds, or what we determine best in class is? Best in class may be the top number of passengers. Maybe it's not. I mean, we get a great job in cargo, and I think they've done a great job of at least from what I've seen in the material I've gone over, they've done a terrific job in getting us all that information to the advisory committee to kind of go over that. So Scott, you were there hands on, you would know better than I would. But I think that I look forward to the discussion when we have more time as far as really what we want to do as a city to develop the airport. So thank you.
Mr. Espenlander.
Yeah, and I guess I'll just comment, having been through the process and been on the committee and through the meetings, we've went through a mountain of data and a summarized mountain of data, because I don't want to look at all that data. And I would say there are no hard stops in this process that have been identified at this point. I think it truly is going to be a preference decision for the city as to how do we make sure that we stay competitive, and that's a hard thing to quantify and qualify. How do we stay competitive? The fact is, we're the only one in Montana that's not an airport authority. And the quantifiable things that I think are things we need to take into consideration as the city council are the burden that we put on the airport by having to deal with the city council and getting through city council schedules and calendars and all of that, and the inability for them to make decisions in a rather quick fashion to operate like a business. We add another level of bureaucracy and oversight. The reality is, I don't know that we've ever had in the 2 years that I've been on, anything that has come up at the airport that we've ever said no to or even had a real hard conversation about. I mean, we're so disconnected from what goes on up there that I don't know that we provide the airport any value, frankly, if you look at it from that perspective. We don't stay engaged on the airport board. I couldn't even tell you the names of a person on the airport board, and I've been here for 2 years. So, I think as disconnected as the council has been for a long, long time is a good indicator that we really provide no value in having them anchored to the city of Billings. That's my perspective. And I'll also say, we went through the orientation 2 years ago, and I walked out of the orientation, and the question I asked is, how fast can we change this to an authority? So I was there a long time ago. It's been helpful to go through this process to understand what the difference is and what it means. But frankly, as we get to the end of this, that would be the thing that I would challenge all of us to think about is not should we keep it just because we need to keep it. What value are we as the city council and the city of Billings adding to the airport to make that better? Because to me, I think the answer is zero. Absolutely nothing.
Mr. Boyette.
So I'll go along with that. So if we're not adding anything, why giving it away would increase efficiency and performance? Does that mean that he's not doing his job now? That it means if we give it away, he's going to do more? A lot of words don't mean anything to me. How are you going to define that? Efficiency and performance going forward if we give it away versus keeping it? That's my proof is in the pudding. Prove to me that this is an increase in efficiency by me giving away this thing. I found a document in our files that the city, paid $60,000 for that land in the early 1900s. Do we get back our $60,000 if we give it away? I think we need more information than just these kind of things. Does that make sense?
Yes, and we're not asking for any decisions to be made today. So we'll certainly have a lot more information to present out.
Okay, Mr. O'Donnell.
Thank you. Along the same lines, the city owns all the airport property, is that correct?
Yes, I believe that is correct, that the city would be the owner of the property today.
So even with the governance, that just has to do with governing, not ownership, is that correct?
So the best practice in the industry right now is for a change in airport governance, you would be doing a fee simple transfer of that property or quick claim deed of that property over to the new authority. Now, mind you, that the property itself, maybe the original property was acquired for $60,000 by the city, but since that time, a lot of federal money has been used to acquire property as well, as my guess. And there's grant assurances tied to that property can only be used as an airport as the sole purpose of that property.
And I may add, Councilmember O'Donnell and Mayor and Council, the grant assurances that we operate under specifically identify federal ownership for properties that were acquired using federal funds or airport generated funding. So that includes funding that didn't come directly from the federal government, but were generated by the airport. So most of the parcels outside of maybe the initial parcel. However, when you accepted federal funding the first time, that tied that initial land acquisition to the airport. So it no longer is available for the city to remove from the airport.
Well, if I could, so this would entail a transfer of ownership of the property away from the city to this airport authority, is that correct?
I would say that that's the best practice. I've seen airport authorities also have a lease agreement, but that can present further issues down the road if that's the path you go.
Well, thank you. My point is that there are regulations having to do with disposition of city assets that we would have to meet. So it's not just a matter of turning everything over and we're done with it. So I imagine a lease agreement is one of the things you still have to work out, whatever. And if that is the case, would that be a profit center for the city, or would the city have any liability, whatever, if they owned it and leased it?
So there's a couple of things there that maybe we could talk some more individually on too. But for the group here, the federal grant assurances are very clear as to the use of that property. And there's one grant assurance that associated with revenue diversion. And because the city has accepted these grant assurances, unless you're prepared to pay back all of the federal money you've accepted, they're not going to allow a transfer for the sale of that property from an entity that you're creating, right? It would be a diversion of revenue.
Okay. Yep. So I look forward to talking to you privately about that, but not part of it. Everybody. Thank you. Yeah. I appreciate that.
Dennis, I think you're next.
Okay. So I was through a discussion in our community where we were talking just changing management. And what really became the issue was the employees and the staff, and then the interaction with the user groups. That became the critical pinch points. The stuff on this level is pretty easy to do. It's all laid out. It's pretty straightforward. We're not just changing management. We're handing you're getting the whole baby. We're not just partially doing this. But it does become having the conversations with the employees, the retirement, the benefits, all of that become critical discussions that need to happen. Where does that play into this whole?
That has been a part of the evaluation. That's also something that's really important in the stakeholder initiative and in our conversations with employees as well. From every transition that I've seen, as a fundamental line for that is that all of the current benefits, compensation and benefits would need to remain the same or better for a transition to take place.
So how do you follow up?
Go ahead.
So how do you have that conversation with all of the airport employees? How do you get them together and understand that? Because it's a change in our city benefits. It's a change in union membership, things like that. How do you plan on facilitating that?
Well, we can do it in numerous ways. Right now, we don't quite know if the city is going to make the change or not, so we haven't necessarily engaged with the entire employee base. But I would say that during phase 2, it'd be very important to communicate what is going to be happening as the city identifies a specific operational structure that it would like to have for this authority, that we're communicating through probably employee town halls as to what that's going to look like.
Mr. Kennedy?
The only reason we're looking at this is to offer better services to the people in this community and the region. And we're also looking at to make sure that as an enterprise fund, that they're able to expand and offer more and more services in the future. And I think that's real important. The controller who owns it or whatever is a small piece. Probably 20 something years ago, we went to the legislature and changed the city county health department into a health authority. We did that because the county commission were looking at bills and we had no clue what different pieces of medical apparatus were and why they were spending all of this money on these different things. So as we got into that and started looking, we also started looking at what best served the people in the whole community. And when the legislation passed, we changed it to a healthcare authority, which reaches out all the way to Carbon County, Stillwater County, all over, because healthcare is needed in all of these areas. As I look at the healthcare authority, it's not worried about does the city own the land or the city doesn't own the land. Are you worried about more of who's going to tell who what to do or whatever? Or are you really going to look at as an airport authority? And I spent a lot of time years ago with the airport manager up in Helena. It gives them flexibility. And the flexibility was able to offer, and he was able to bring new flights in, which we hear all the time. We have an opportunity, and the one thing I heard for a long time is we don't have enough parking. The flexibility with an airport authority is to be able to take some dollars and go ahead and build. The bureaucracy of the hierarchy of the airport authority to come back here and to start talking about, to explain to each of the council to do it when they would have a governing board for an airport authority that would be on top of all of that, streamline it and be able to get these things done. I think that's what you're looking at. If you can't look at the overall picture of how this offers better service and competitive service to this region, because we are regional, and it's no wonder Bozeman keeps on moving past us on the number of passengers and the number of people that say we drive the 2 hours over to Bozeman to fly out. I think by not looking at this, by not going forward with this, I think it's really detrimental to the different people in the community. And I think one of the pieces is how do you support businesses in this community and growth in this community if you don't have a growing airport being able to offer those services. So I think it's a win-win all the way around, but all of you need to be convinced of that and answer the questions. But it's, if you get around the state, talk to these different airport authority folks, they will tell you it has been very good for the community and very good for the region and very good for the businesses in the community. Thanks.
Mr. Nicholson.
How is the membership of the board selected in other communities, and how do you envision it here if we go to this authority?
Under an authority board, that is? So your state law outlines some of the fundamentals as to what you're able to do there. And there's a requirement for a minimum of 5 board members that would be appointed by the governing body that would be forming the authority.
Mr. Neese?
Thank you, Mayor. And maybe I'll ask you this question again, because this is a question I asked, and I think are very helpful and help me understand this. If I got to follow up to this question is because the authority, the question hasn't been addressed yet, how to organize or which way to organize the authority if there is an authority, like whether it's just city only or city county or Yellowstone, Carbon. I mean, there's a lot of different options we can do when you're setting up authority. But I think what you mentioned when I was talking to you is how, when final opinions question, how do we do that depending on who is the appointing authorities? Because I believe it really could be only the city or could be others. And so you gave me some examples how some of the counties and cities or joint authorities do it, as well as if you can address one of the questions I asked you is, okay, Council Member Kenny's gone now, but he was talking about the parking lots that you'd put up. That all takes money. Well, the money doesn't fall on the trees. It comes out of taxpayers' pocket if it's not a federal grant. And so explain to that, how does that taxing authority work within authorities so that we understand really where that authority for the taxing comes from? As I understand, it starts here, but if you could expound and make sure.
I'll start just real quickly so everybody's on the same sheet of music. Councilmember Neese and Mayor and Council, we do not get any tax dollars. We get no tax dollars at the city level, no tax dollars at the county level, no tax dollars at the state level. We generate all of the revenue that the airport uses as an enterprise fund. The only tax dollars that come back to the airport are fuel tax and passenger tax collected at the federal level that come back. A portion of that comes back to the airport in the form of infrastructure grants. So there is no tax dollars.
But you do get a lot of federal money though, right?
That's federal taxes that are generated on the airport. Fuel tax.
No, I'm sorry. The federal grants that we get, that's all federal tax dollars coming
that are generated on our
I know
airport.
It's no local money, but I think as you and I were talking about what happens when we're going to do a garage, and how does that get paid for? Is there? Let me back up. Maybe garage was a bad example, but as far as when an authority is approved, you told me, if I understand this correctly, the city council gives the authority, the taxing authority, of how much if they're going to do it, and then the authority has to go out to the voters to get that. So it's not us or them just approving money.
Okay. I think I understand your question. So in your state law, there's a process that outlines in the forming resolution whether the council would want to provide this new authority the ability to have a tax or not. So just to echo what Jeff said, there are no taxes that support the airport today, and that's not what's being proposed right now either. It's based on user fees of the airport. But let's say if it were to be created in that form, there would still be a requirement to come back and request that tax to be used and have to go out to the electorate as all other taxes take place.
Yeah, I appreciate the addressing, because that's one of my biggest concerns is we're going to turn this over to another public entity who has this authority that the city council only has really appointment authority to, but they may have a taxing authority, but they really don't. It will have to be the electorate that approves any taxing that comes from them to support any kind of operation. So
yes, and at this point, the airport being self-funded and self-sufficient today, I wouldn't see that as being necessary in the formation of the authority.
Right. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions for our gentleman? Mr. Roach, anything else that you'd like to add?
I would just open it to the city administrator who has a question. Mayor?
Hi, Mr. Kukulski.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Jeff. Just want to be clear that the meetings, well, two things. First of all, SBA being hired to do this work is because this is a very complex process. So this isn't just a couple people sitting in an office deciding, you know what, let's go from city to an authority. That's the work that they're doing very methodically. Second, the meetings that are being requested with you guys, in no way, shape, or form are they getting into or asking you for direction on a policy. They are not illegal meetings. They are not chain meetings because it is not a policy conversation. It's simply a conversation, being educated and listening to kind of your feedback. Okay. All right. And Gina's going to send something out to make that very clear so you know kind of where the law is. Because yes, we cannot have chain meetings where decisions are being made one person at a time, but that's not what will happen here or has happened here. So.
All right. Thank you. Jeff, you have anything you want to add?
That's all I have, Mayor. Thank you very much for the opportunity to present where we're at today with this project and to bring you up to speed for those that haven't been involved in the process. Thank you.
Thanks to the two of you. Great work.
Again.
All right, we're going to go to item number 2, aggressive driving initiative.
Mayor, Council, good evening. The item in front of you, one of 2 from the police department, is a continuation of a council discussion that took place in December of 2025, 12/1 specifically. It was an initiative from former council member Rupsis, not only to the police department, but other departments to take a look at some strategies to address aggressive driving. I won't reiterate too much on what that meeting consisted of. We did talk about some engineering solutions. We talked about some enforcement strategies and some enhancement tools for law enforcement. What's before you here is one of those tools that we think will help us in this specific area. The proposed amendments to the noise regulations seek to clarify, modernize, and improve the city's ability to address excessive and disruptive vehicle noise while staying fully consistent with Montana law and constitutional protections. The revisions reaffirm that excessive motor vehicle noise is a public health concern, safety and quality of life concern as well. The amendments ensure that the city can enforce content-neutral time, place, and manner restrictions that regulate conduct, not speech, and prevent the unnecessary or unreasonable noise in neighborhoods, businesses, districts, and public spaces. The key improvements to the ordinance is it removes uncertainty and vagueness by updating old language and fixing internal inconsistencies. It establishes clear, plainly audible standard, providing both the public and officers with a predictable and simple to understand threshold. It expands coverage beyond amplified music to include other typical sources of excessive vehicle noise which is encountered during our enforcement. And it aligns with state law, explicitly supplementing rather than contradicting existing motor vehicle statutes. The benefits to the community: clear notification to the public regarding what qualifies as illegal noise, consistent and objective guidance for our officers, minimizing subjectivity in enforcement. It's legally defensible for any enforcement. It maintains community peace while respecting lawful vehicle operation and constitutional rights. The bottom line, Mayor and Council, these amendments will update the code, enhance enforceability, and safeguard community quality of life while staying firmly within state law and constitutional limits. I worked with Mr. Todd Korn on this, and the edits that you saw on the ordinance were his recommendations as well. Mayor, for your consideration.
Thank you, Chief. I think we'll start with Mr. Aspenlighter this time.
Thanks. Chief, I appreciate the work on this. Gina, your team, appreciate the work on this. I think this is a good step in the right direction. Couple of questions around this. One thing I don't see in the ordinance, and maybe you could educate me on this, is the fine structure associated with violation. Do we outline that in the ordinance? Should it be outlined in the ordinance? And what are the state requirements on, usually the state has caps, like cannot exceed. What what's our brackets that we have to stay in with respect to fine?
Thank you. That's a good question. This particular, this ordinance outlines these violations as municipal infractions. So if you will look at the very end of the ordinance, and at the end of section 1, it's the last page, letter C, it specifies that the violations are designated as municipal infractions, and the penalties are set forth in section 18-1304. So I don't recall what those all are off the top of my head, but I think they start at $100, and there are some other, and it's up to like 500 or something.
So my follow-up comment to that is these are things that I think we have to be aware also of the way that they're handled in the courts, and the judges have discretion. You know, the officers write the ticket, that's their job. The judge's job is to issue the fine appropriately. It doesn't do us any good for this to be a $20 fine. That's not going to change anybody's habits. And this is where, for me, I would like these things to be punitive, and punitive to the point where it makes people think, and it makes people react to that. So I'm of the mindset, and as we go forward with this, that I would like us to look at that section 18-1304 and potentially also revise that to within the brackets. I don't know what those are, but I'd like that also considered in
like a mandatory minimum fine.
Correct.
So
yeah,
you can certainly impose that. We can provide some recommendations and see if you guys want to go higher or lower.
Yeah, that would be my request. And Chief, that gets out of your team's realm, but I think we also need to consider that. I mean, if we're going to put these things in place and we're actually going to think that they're going to have a change in behavior, there has to be a financial penalty with it that induces a change in behavior. $100 fine isn't going to do that for most people. The other part, and this, I don't want to bog this conversation down, but the other part of that conversation we had last fall was also looking at the fine structure in our code as it relates to reckless driving and excessive speeds. Not dealt with in this ordinance, but as we're looking at fine and fee structure, I'd like us to also look at maybe making changes to that. Frankly, personally, I'd like us to be the most expensive city in the Northwest when it comes to excessive speeds and reckless driving. Max that out to whatever ability we have to max it out, to make these things punitive, to make it hurt, and to make it be felt. I don't want this to get to a point in which you can sob story to a judge about, I made a mistake, or I can't afford it, blah, blah, blah. Mandatory minimums on those fines that are felt also. That's probably a conversation we need to have with Judge Kolar, and I'll do that on my own time. But as we're looking at the minimums associated with these fines, I'd also like us to look at the reckless driving fines and the excessive speed fines as well in our ordinance to do what we can on that front as well. So that's it for me.
Okay, Mr. Neese.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to follow up on that. I agree with you. There needs to be more fines on these, but my concern is that we can't just change 18-1304 because that actually handles all the municipal infractions. So there could be lots of other things that would impact. And so I'm wondering if we actually stick the minimums in the ordinance, because the 1304 is actually the maximums. And so depending on which ordinance is addressing, we could state that this ordinance, the minimum fine is X.
That's what you would have to do. You couldn't just simply refer it to another section. You'd have to impose it in this particular section of the code.
And so if we're going to do a minimum like that, is that you can put you at a placeholder? Where would we put that in this ordinance here?
We would insert that in the penalty section. You don't need to worry about that. We can provide that an edited version.
Okay, with some numbers in it as well? Okay.
All right, Mr. O'Donnell and then Mr. Pittman.
Thank you. The ordinance as written is very comprehensive, very good. As you and I have discussed before, enforcement is something former council member Rupsis pointed out the example of talking on a cell phone. He said there's very little enforcement of that. I'd like to see the numbers on that, by the way. But motorcycles, living right on Shiloh myself, I'm acutely aware of the situation. Motorcyclists, we discussed before, some of them are wearing helmets, so they can't be identified facially or visibly. The license plates are really small, so they can't really be monitored. Motorcyclists can just jump over the median and go the other direction. They have a lot of mobility. How would you see any enforcement of this? How do you catch them?
Council member, that's one of the challenges that we have. I think we are very creative on methods. We ran a detail that you're aware of last summer. It was labor intensive. It was very expensive. It utilized drones. It utilized unmarked cars with marked units. And we were able to identify people that ran and did the things that you talked about. The one thing that we do not want to do is create a dangerous situation by engaging in a pursuit and running these people to the ground. Those days are over. We have a high threshold to pursue somebody. We do pursue and have pursued, but running the traffic offense to the ground is not going to end well. And so we need to be mindful of that. What I would tell you is that we're working on strategies. We're working on different details and things that we can do. PSAs have gone out. They haven't done a very good job, Councilmember Boyette, of relating my instructions on how to maneuver a roundabout. However, we're working to educate to get people to mind the rules of the road. And the other thing I think that's going to be helpful for us just coming online last year, the offense of eluding a police officer is now a felony. So to the Councilmember Aspenlatter's point, if you run and we catch you, that's going to leave a mark. Before it was a misdemeanor. And so there really wasn't much deterrence to that. So thankful for our legislature, Representative Baum, retired police officer, helped get that through. So we have strategies. There's other things we need to address as well. One of your public speakers was talking about the gatherings in the parking lots. We need to stay on top of that. We have mechanisms for that. We'd like to get the buy-in and cooperation from businesses on what we can do or what they want us to do. And then again, the whole thing is we got to use these tools. We got to go out and enforce it. And that's my responsibility to get that done.
Okay. Mr. Pittman, then Mr. Boyette.
Chief, it was about a decade ago, we had the same conversation with the council. And the devil was in the details as far as decibels and how do you actually get this in front of a judge and have it hold up as far as that goes. What's changed in the last decade that allows this to actually be enforced?
Thank you, Council Member. What we were able to do was get a standalone ordinance which dealt with amplified music coming from vehicles. So the loud stereos, the booming basses, all we needed to do was to hear it and determine that it was at least 50 feet away, and that was a citable offense. So what we did with this was basically take that concept and apply it to all vehicle noise. Previously, it was required that we had the decibel readings, that we needed to be there when somebody went by at 95 decibels more than it should be. That is unrealistic, it's untenable, and it didn't work. Where we do apply that, for example, is a parking lot cleaner. 4 o'clock in the morning and you have them, doing their brooming and all that stuff, that's where we apply the decibel meter. There's a time and a place for that. But when we're trying to take enforcement action on revving motors, squealing tires, loud stereos, loud mufflers, the motorcycles, we need to take action immediately. I don't have time to stand there with a decibel meter, even if I had one, and wait for somebody to go by. This gives us the tool to unilaterally take enforcement actions based on officers' observation, and hopefully we can let people know that we're able to do this, and if we can get the appropriate fines, then hopefully get some deterrence.
Mr. Boyette?
Thank you, Mayor. Chief, there's an ordinance now for noise. How many tickets have been issued in the last year? Would you have any idea for noise ordinance?
I don't know. I mean, if we have, it's not very many, and it's usually affiliated with, as I say, parking lot cleaners. Pretty much specific complaints from neighbors about diesel trucks idling all night, things like that. But as far as a vehicle going by with a loud pipe, probably not many.
Okay, so I guess my question, the follow-up is, if you're not doing it now, what makes me think you'll do it tomorrow? That's the obvious question.
And that is, again, my responsibility to make sure that we take enforcement actions. If you pass this, it gives us a tool that's much more usable than what we have right now.
Mr. Neese?
Thank you. Councilmember Upsis mentioned that residential areas, there's nothing in here specifically states, that residential areas are more, need to be more restrictive than just a typical Shiloh road. And so is that something that you can see being done later on, or is this something that should be addressed by this ordinance now?
This ordinance is blanket 50 feet. If the officer thinks that it's too noisy, it's regardless where it is, it's in a residential area or on Shiloh, they can take action.
Okay. And I'm sorry, Mayor, I had a blank spot, and I'll think about it and put my hand up later.
Okay. Anybody else? All right, so as far as giving direction to staff, I would guess that.
I'm sorry.
Did you fill in the blank?
I'm filling in the blank.
All right.
You mentioned the parking lot with the cleaners. Is not that a vehicle that makes noise? And so could that not be cited because you can hear it from more than 50 feet away?
Council member, yes. Again, officer discretion. And the point, and I think the real goal here is not the utility vehicles, not the ones that are doing work that happen to be loud, is to address the speeders, the loud motorcycles, the things that you hear about. I don't get a lot of complaints about utility trucks racing up and down Shiloh. I do get the sweepers in the parking lots and the diesel trucks that are idling all night, especially in the wintertime. We do get those complaints. There's another mechanism for that.
Right. But what I'm saying is I'm not sure why that whole section, including the utility vehicles, were in there if you don't ever get complaints about it. But what I'm saying is if a vacuum truck is making a loud noise at 4 a.m. in the morning, would that not fit under this ordinance?
Yes, it would.
Okay, thank you.
All right. So anything else, anybody? As far as instructions to staff regarding this new ordinance, do we have any specific changes regarding that ordinance? No, so go forth and ordain. But do we have anything regarding 18-1304 that we would like to see?
I have an answer to your question, or a question to your question. Is there existing right now any noise regulations having to do with medical facilities or senior care, memory care facilities? Is there any hospital zone noise limitation?
Not to my knowledge, council member. I'll double check on that. It's just general noise, but you're getting at restricted areas.
Yeah.
I believe. No, I don't think there is, but we can certainly check. Code enforcement would have a lot to do with that if those things. But let me report back to you.
And excuse me, Mr. Mayor, I would say that would be the only thing that I would see on the ordinance as written, that if there was such a restriction for those areas. Thank you.
I think quiet zone is a term that that we have heard and used. So,
all right.
Thank you.
Ms. Dahl?
Thank you, Mayor. So as I review the penalties for civil or for municipal infractions, the first violation is a civil penalty of not more than $300. So that is obviously not a mandatory minimum. It's just it's just a maximum. For each repeat violation, civil penalty not to exceed $500 shall be imposed. So is there a consensus or a recommendation from the majority of council what you would like to see for a mandatory minimum here?
Mr. Mayor, I would propose that those maximums are made minimums.
Ms. Dahl? Do you have your hand up?
No, I just wanted to make sure that I caught that the $300 be the mandatory minimum for a first offense.
Correct.
And
yeah,
mandatory minimum 500 for the second.
Correct.
Okay. I'm not seeing anybody disagree with that.
What's up
I
with
have
my
one
microphone tonight?
for you. So that we're not making any rules tonight, may I suggest that staff come back to us with, say, a range of minimums that we could, at a business meeting, make a decision on? Okay. Mr. Pittman?
The only thing I had to add was, do we have to have a maximum on these as well?
Yes, we do.
Does the state put a maximum that we can do?
It is in there, and I would have to look it up. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Anything else? Anything else over here? Thank you, Chief St. John.
Thank you.
All right. Don't go anywhere,
Not.
because we're going to go to item number 3, Citizen Advisory Board.
Thank you, Mayor. This is a continuation of a discussion as well. As you begin your deliberations, I'd like to remind council that even though on December 8th of 2025, an initiative to delay appointments to the Citizens Police Advisory Board passed, the previous council voted to renew the board on September 22nd of 2025, so the body legally exists. As such, council has an obligation to either appoint members or formally revisit the structure. The latter is falling well within the purview of Councilmember O'Donnell's initiative to review boards and committees. The board is renewed, and the council can still evaluate whether the structure is effective before filling seats. I will just say from the police department's standpoint, the Police Advisory Board in general, regardless of who's sitting on the board, facilitates transparent dialogue. It offers civilian perspective. It helps support our policy development, and as we report to you, and it's an additional channel for community concerns. Suffice to say that we will support any direction that you choose to go. And Mayor, I will step back with that.
Mr. Kennedy?
Mayor, this is my initiative, and I would ask that this be referred, which will to the organizational operational committee, and evaluate the structure of it. And at that time, it will be deemed to bring back to this council if we keep it or not. I would like to I would like to go forward with that and take it off the agenda tonight. But the one thing that I would say is, Chief, you have every opportunity in the world to make your own advisory council, do whatever you want, and not have a council-appointed advisory council. If you want to go out in the public, you talk with a cop and all of that. You get a lot of feedback or whatever. I really don't feel we need a formal council on that. You have two different, you have the academies, one in the fall and one in the spring. You get 30, 35 people at those. They give you a lot of input back. So I think we transfer this because we already did it to look at all the structure and everything to the operational committee. And Mayor, I'd go ahead and with the council approval, just move it over there.
Let me, before we do that, let me ask our parliamentarian. It says here action is delayed till March 23rd of 2026. So we're on the agenda for next week.
Mayor, I do not believe that this specific item is on the agenda next week. There may be some other board appointments on the agenda, but I don't believe this particular board is. But I would like to take the opportunity to say that I understand and appreciate Councilmember Kennedy's statements, and that I agree that it would be appropriate for that committee to be reviewing this Citizens Police Advisory Board, along with the other committees it's going to be reviewing and determining the future of. However, this particular board, committee, or commission, however you want to describe it, currently is in existence. It was renewed by council in December. So as your legal counsel, I would continue to recommend that those appointments be made in the meantime till council determines what it's going to do with this, because it exists, and currently there is members of the committee that are continuing to act, but their terms have long expired. So under your current rules, the city code does require appointments to be made.
Okay, I see. So we haven't published the agenda for the operations committee that's going to meet on the 6th yet. That comes out in the next couple of days, right? But that committee on committees is coming to the operations committee to give us a report, and I would expect that would be first on their list, right, Mr. O'Donnell? So if we wait until the 6th and then come back with some sort of a report or decision to the council on the 13th, would we be all right?
Mayor and council, would you be all right is vague, but I guess what I would say is if that committee on committees determines that this particular board or commission is going to be discontinued, council would then need to pass a resolution to complete that act, because there is currently a resolution which has established this committee. So it can make that report, but we'll still have to follow up with formality.
All right, great. Mr. Pittman?
So just to follow up on this, though, that the resolution that it put this in place has its sunsetting and ending. There was like a consensus vote taken, I think, at a work session to continue it or to look at it. So I can't see why it's still ineffective if the original resolution finished it. Doesn't matter what happened after that. The council didn't start a new resolution that said this was going to continue on to another date that I'm aware of.
Councilmember Pittman, maybe I'm not following exactly what you're saying, but there was a resolution in September 22nd of last year renewing this particular committee for 4 years.
Okay.
The last resolution I saw was that it ended,
Sunset.
but sunsetted.
The resolution is 25-11302.
Mr. O'Donnell, go ahead.
Thank you. Chief, for the benefit of myself and the people who are watching this, it is rather confusing that there are two police boards. There's this police board, and then there's the Citizens Police Advisory Board. What is the difference between those?
Councilmember O'Donnell, the police commission is statutorily required. They basically participate in our hiring process, and they are also appeal process if somebody wants to do so on a disciplinary issue. Those are the two areas that they're involved in. The Citizens Police Advisory Board was created and codified going to Councilmember Kennedy's comment that we did discuss just creating a chief's board. The council at that time decided not to do that and wanted it codified, and that's where we're at right now. Very narrow in their tasking. They are advisory only. They help us with recruiting and retention. They look at statistics. It's laid out, and I'd have to pull it up here. There's 4 specific things that they are tasked with doing, and they have done that dutifully and reported as such. That's the difference between the two. One of them is statutorily required, does have authority. The other is advisory to me, and then I relay that information to council. Yeah.
All right. So our direction to staff should be, let me just throw something out here. We will take it to the Committee on Committees, who will then take it to the Operations Committee, and we will hear it on the 6th of April. Okay? Is there any heartburn with that,
Well,
Mr. Nicholson?
Yeah, in the meantime, we're not in compliance with the city ordinance or resolution 25-11302.
Okay.
Excuse me, I think the chief said that the advisory board is still operating right now. So we're not impeding them. We're not disenfranchising them, just not appointing any new members. That's the only thing in front of us. Is that correct?
That is partially correct, council member. I have people that are just showing up because they want to participate. We do have people that requested to be reappointed, have a renewal, and that was on hold. I have an individual who was appointed by former Mayor Cole, who thinks he's on the board and had called me and apologized because he couldn't make it for various reasons. So we have a state of flux. The bottom line is that Police Advisory Board exists legally, and we still have people that are showing up. When I send out the agenda, it's for whoever's interested, because pretty much everybody had termed out when we started this thing. Everyone came on at the same time, so that's what we're dealing with now.
We do. All right. Are we, any other heartburn? Any other problems with? Okay. So that's our direction of staff. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you,
Appreciate
Mayor.
it. And we hope we'll solve this quickly. Item number 4 on the agenda, changes to council meetings discussion. And so, Councilman Pittman, you're on.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So actually, I just want this more of a discussion tonight, and then we can decide whether we want to go forward, don't want to go forward, the pros and the cons. but I think we have three issues that we just need to deal with. One was a discussion we had as new council members before we were sworn in and started our orientations. The city administrator had brought up that in the past there had been a discussion of moving the meetings from Monday nights to Tuesday. And I just thought it would be interesting to hear everybody's perspective, not just the new people coming on, but what happened in the past as to why that did or didn't happen. So that would be one topic. The second topic was something that Council Member Kennedy brought up, was the potential of just all of these being business meetings, so that when we're taking votes, we're taking action. The agendas would probably be shorter. We could still have presentations, but I would like to hear people's opinions on that. Not a lot of reason to spend a lot of energy if it's not going to go anywhere. And third would be what Mr. Nelson brought up as far as adding public comment back into our following each of our points on a work session. We put those in back when I was on the council the first time, so that just like Mr. Nelson was saying, he had no idea what number 4 was going to actually cover, but to be able to offer some input after that topic is usually pretty helpful to hear from our public. So I would just maybe turn it over to the city administrator, since he's the one that brought this topic to us in the first place, and get his perspective.
Councilmember Pittman, Mayor and Council. So yeah, I think it was about 4 years ago. Actually, I think came out of a conversation of the city managers around the state. And that, in that case, I think it was Bozeman that had made a change from Mondays to Tuesdays. A couple of things caught my attention to bring it to the council for consideration. Similar to Billings, we have school board meetings at the same time on the same night of each week. All these things are relatively minor in nature. None of this was earth-shattering, kind of have to make a change. That was a component. I think greater component was anything that would extend the improve the opportunity to be prepared for these public meetings, in theory, would have them go better. So an additional business day of preparation by you, as well as any questions that may be asked of staff. Sometimes it's a scramble on a Monday when you've got the weekend leading into it. So the thought was you had that additional day. Those were the I'm going to say those were the primary motivations. I guess an additional one from a consistency standpoint. We do know there are a handful of Monday holidays that happen each year, and every time that there's a Monday holiday, at least in our rules, that means that meeting slides to Tuesday. So it would just consistently put it on a Tuesday. Again, none of these things were gotta make a change. But we thought it was worth the conversation. Now, I would say there is some concerns that came up. So there are a number of other meetings, public meetings in the community, not just the school board and the city council. Some of our advisory boards, some of the things as critical as the planning process, planning board, things of that nature, that currently I think meet on Tuesdays. There's also some task forces that meet on Tuesdays. So my assumption it would be if you made a change, they will probably need to kind of have a domino and consider relocating themselves. Still be my argument that this being the policy body for the city, you get to set what is the most effective way for you to operate in setting that policy. I would say that emphasizes, though, not doing a trial period. Let's try this out for 6 months or a year and see how it goes, because going back and forth will create a lot of disruption. Then lastly, as far as the council at that time, and I think it was a very legitimate comment, one of the elected officials was very clear. I got elected around the idea that the meetings were on Mondays. That's what works for my schedule. Tuesday is going to be a problem for me. And I think everybody was fully respectful of that they were not going to change it if it really was going to be a problem for somebody else on the council. So that's a little bit of background about the conversation we had about 4 years ago.
So you want to take these for conversation one item at a time, and we'll talk first about moving to Tuesdays. And Mr. Kennedy has his hand up.
I would just say selfishly, I'd love to watch Monday Night Football. So moving it to Tuesday night would give me an opportunity to watch the football game. But I'm going to tell you, it's not worth it. I think people have been coming to the Monday night meetings and everything. It disrupts people's schedule. And so I'll give up my Monday Night Football or tape them just so I can be here on Monday night. But that's what they elected me for. Thanks.
Mr. O'Donnell.
I haven't watched Monday Night Football in quite some time. I do like watching football, so that wouldn't be a problem. I would just say that Tuesday would work well for me, better than Monday. Thank you.
Ms. Aguirre?
Thank you. I would just like to also vote for Tuesday in that Sundays are family days. So I would have Monday to better prepare for a meeting on Tuesday.
Mr. Nicholson?
Maybe they could bring back the Thursday edition of Monday Night Football for us. I think there's a lot of good arguments moving for Tuesday, which Mr. Kukulski enumerated, but I wouldn't want to see the change done for a number of months, just because everybody's schedule, well, at least in my household where we're both doctors, we're used to making our schedules 6 to 9 months in advance. So if we make the change, I would like to delay it so everybody can get used to the idea.
Anybody else? Mr. Aspenleiter?
Personally, for me, I don't think it really matters Monday or Tuesday. I don't have any burning preference one way or the other. The whole concept, though, behind moving it to Tuesday is to allow staff more time to get questions in, because questions are generally drummed up over the weekend because we all have jobs for the most part, and then staff has more time. My fear is that as natural procrastinators, that instead of getting questions in on the weekend and giving staff a day Monday to get us information and have time to disseminate it, then we're all just going to procrastinate till Monday and ask questions on Monday, and we're going to be in the same predicament on Tuesday. So I think that whole thing just accentuates the fact that when we get the packet, it's our obligation as the elected officials to be prepared, to get through the packets. I don't do the best job of that sometimes. I'll be the first to admit it, but it's our job to get through the information to make sure that we're prepared on Mondays, not to put that off to the last day. And my fear is that that's exactly what's going to happen. So changing it from Monday to Tuesday is not going to fix that problem for staff. It's just going to allow us to kick the can down the road one more time, one more day. And we're going to be in the very same situation trying to jam staff up the day before the meeting to get us answers. So I don't think that is a good reason to change it, if that's the reason that we're going to change it, because I don't think it's going to change council action on that.
Okay. Mr. Neese.
Thank you. I agree with you. I think there's, whether it's Monday or Tuesday, procrastination is going to happen, and I have been trying to be better at getting to these sooner, but it's not always the case. So, but I really prefer Monday. And to your point about the work schedule, it's also summertime vacation and planning and going in and out of town and doing things with family. Often Monday is great because you have the whole rest of the week to plan and be out without having to miss the meetings and things like that. Now, some of that's been helped with the Zoom options. And so often when I'm going out of town over Monday, I do have a Zoom meeting and attend that way. So that is helpful. But summertime, usually it's not a spot where Zoom's available. If I'm out camping in the middle of the woods, you're not going to get that Zoom capability. And so I would be concerned about missing a lot of the summer meetings being out of town. If we are going to make a change on this, I think to the point of what you mentioned, and to all of us who were elected here and we kind of planned this to be on a Monday, is maybe make the change for when the new council members are going to be coming in, effective, you know, in kind of like if we have to vote in raises, it's actually not until the brand new councils. So when they're running for election, they know what they're getting themselves into, that it's going to be changed in the future. But my request would keep it at Monday night for now until some other time. If we want to change it, let's do it in the future. Then and make that new council member have to, you know, the not future council members be Tuesday night.
Okay. Mr. Boyette?
I'm happy with Monday night. I think we should just go thumbs up or thumbs down and move on.
Mr. Lindley?
Yeah, I tend to agree with Scott. I'd love to believe that I would get things done ahead of time, but I feel like I'd probably just push it out. So I don't know if there's as big of a difference going from Monday to Tuesday for me, so I'd probably just keep it the same.
Okay. Who have I missed? You get everybody? Go ahead.
One more thing.
One more thing.
Yeah, thank God for the last minute. Otherwise, nothing would ever get done.
Okay, I think we got a couple that say either. And we have 5 that say Monday and 2 that say Tuesday. I'm missing somebody on my list here. Yeah, so it looks like it's a Monday thing. All right, item number 2. All business meetings. You want to weigh in there, Mr. Staff Leader?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. On this one, I do have a stronger opinion, and I got to talk to the clerk's office about it. This will create more work. The packets, even if the packets are smaller, let's just say they're all the same action items, right? There is significant effort that goes into putting your packet together for the action meetings versus the work sessions. I mean, you do get packet material for tonight, but frankly, that's packaged up at the end of the week just prior to the meeting. So yeah, we actually have kind of a 5-6 business day window here where we're focused on providing services and doing our day job versus council packet stuff. So I've worked in both systems in Montana, so it's not an issue of it can't be done. It's absolutely doable. But we do run an extremely lean clerk's office. We have, our clerk's office is the same size as mine was in Kalispell, you know, at 15,000 versus 120,000. So I will say there will be a staff component that doesn't mean, oh, it's a full FTE or whatever, but we can't always just keep saying, oh, just add that on, just add that on, just add that on. So just please keep that in mind as you kind of debate the merits of what to do here. Thanks.
Anybody have some comments on this? We'll start with Mr. Pittman.
Yeah, so, you know, I think it now that we're taking votes and doing things at work sessions, even though it's a vote to give direction, it's already counting the vote, and we pretty much know where it's headed at that point. So I'm not sure that we're actually complying with law as much as we should be. That being said, there's a lot of opportunities here to get things done on a more speedily basis instead of every 2 weeks pushing something in. There might so you know, 2 of us have served as commissioners, and we had a business meeting every week. And it seemed our agendas were shorter. We could still do presentations. A lot of times what I see happen here is we have a presentation at the work session, and then it comes back to us next week with the same presentation to get a vote on it, an official vote. And I think we can start doing some things a little quicker and maybe making it a little more efficient for our community.
Mr. Aspenliner.
I'm of the mindset of going to regular business meetings mainly because I think our work sessions are worthless a lot of times. I mean, our presentations of 30 and 40 slides are obnoxiously longer than they need to be. And it turns into a presentation session, not a work session. I mean, we've talked about this ad nauseum. Are we getting better? I think we're getting a little better. However, what Dennis just referred to as exactly happens. I mean, we get a presentation, then we get the same presentation regurgitated a week or 2 weeks later when it shows back up on a business session, which is just a waste of everybody's time. It's a waste of staff's time too, to have to go through that. If we're going to keep it the same way, we got to get better about making work sessions actually work sessions and not presentation sessions. I had big hopes that changing that up and going around the table was going to help facilitate more discussion, and that did not work at all. You know, the way the county does work sessions, frankly, is so much better than the way we do it. But we still can't figure out how to do it like the county does it and make it be effective and efficient for everybody. This is another one that I really don't care one way or the other. I suppose I still encourage us to try to get better at making these work sessions actually meaningful. But in order to make work sessions meaningful, we have to be able to give collective direction to staff. And if we're taking votes trying to give direction to staff, and that starts to raise people's hackles about taking actual business, then what the hell's the point of the work session? So I don't know how to crack this conundrum. I'm almost in the camp of just going to regular business sessions and making it a business action, but that's my perspective.
All right, before we move on, so I heard you were neutral, but then you're not neutral, so. Neutral, all right. Mr. Neese.
Thank you, Mayor. I also would like to see our work sessions more working, and I think they have been coming a little bit that way. And I want to clarify that we are not violating law. Our ordinance specifically states that during work sessions we can vote to give council direction to staff, and it's the only thing we can do when we vote on that kind of stuff. So it is important. We are not violating any law. We're not directing, we're not approving anything. We're directing staff to bring it to us. And that's the whole idea is because often these issues that we do need to take the time to discuss them, work them out, and hear from each other so that we understand and formulate an opinion to give staff direction. When I first got on council, and I'm sorry, you can blame me for this, and why we have so many votes during work sessions is when I first got on council, I saw staff out there not knowing what we were thinking because they would give the presentation like you say, and we'd sit there. Not a word. A few questions, but they had no idea based on the question, does that question mean they support this or not? Do they want to see that change or not? And then even if one person said they wanted to change, everyone else just sat there. Didn't agree with the other member, didn't say, yeah, I agree, let's do this, or no way. So they had no idea from whether or not how that was going to go. So they needed some direction. So I actually started asking council for it because I realized in our work sessions we can do that. And I started asking for making directions of vote so we could do that. And it has helped them understand. And Chris, you can attest to this, whether or not it helped the staff understand when they bring an item back to us for an approval, it's more formulated into the right way. And so I agree, sometimes our work sessions don't do that, and I wish they would, because that's what they're designed for. And under the county system, yeah, there's only 3 people that they can very quickly get through this thing. So there's only 3 people giving ideas and bouncing ideas off of. But here we've got 11 people that we're going to brainstorm off of and research and come back with our opinions. And so it does take a little bit longer. But I am still for work sessions. I would actually have more work sessions because I think often we're rushing through items. Because if we can formulate what the staff is, and I agree, some people think, well, it's the decision being made. It's really not. The decision is during the business session, and the attorney that's when we give that actual public hearing. They're going to hear what we have to say during the work session. They can have that public hearing and even talk to us between the work session and business session to change our ideas. And that's happened to me, actually with the noise ordinance a little bit this last time. So I think that we have to have more time in work sessions so we can talk to each other and come up with ideas and how to formulate these ideas. So I would be advocate for work sessions, and if we had to have more of them. sorry, for more meetings.
Okay. Councilmember Nicholson.
Excuse me. Yeah, had a career as a psychiatrist. I'm used to a messy world. And I'm also used to having to take time to gather information and to think about things. And I think work sessions are really good for that. There have been times where I thought, gee, I think I know what I think about this subject. And after a work session, I've changed my mind. In this kind of work, I don't think you can have too much information.
All right. Ms. Aguirre? I think that's it.
I think I align pretty well with CM Nicholson's viewpoint. Information is key to being able to make good and effective decisions. So I think keep the information coming.
All right. Thanks. So let's just start with you, Mr. O'Donnell, and you'll work our way back here with ups or downs. Work sessions, all business meetings, or neutral? Neutral. Mr. Boyette? Mr. Lindley? I just about called you Mr. Shaw. So Mr. Lindley.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Well,
once a meeting.
Yeah. Also, being new, I think, sort of like Councilmember O'Donnell, I feel like I don't quite have a rhythm yet to know like a final opinion of it. Although I think what Councilmember Neese mentioned and Councilmember Nicholson, I mean, I think for me right now in this moment, the work sessions are helpful. And I think, I can see how us making a decision and even taking votes on direction to staff would be helpful. So I'm in favor of keeping the work sessions.
All righty, and then I have Mr. Aspenleiter as neutral, and I have Mr. Kennedy as next up.
I would go to the business meetings, and then you can go to lunchtime or whenever and have, just like we did today, and go through more specific things. I guess I get tired of, at the task force, a presentation. I get tired of then coming here to a work session and having a presentation, and then to the board meeting, having a presentation. And then if you happen to go to another task force or another meeting or your committee, and they do the same presentation. So sometimes you could see it 4 or 5 times.
Mm-hmm.
And after a while, you see it in your dreams too. So I'd say, why not just do them as regular board meetings and then one presentation? And then if you wanted to do a work session at noon, whenever needed. Thanks.
Okay. So, and then Nelson's going to be work session. I've read the rules of procedure for work sessions a bunch. And I'm doing my best to run these meetings right to as close to the letter as I can. So I suppose since we have, it looks like the majority of people that are either neutral or going to work sessions, we'll keep with work sessions if that's all right with you all. But I do think that we could still deformalize these a bit and probably work with staff on streamlining and shortening or decreasing the length of the presentations, because really we're going to get to the heart of the matter in a business meeting. So that leads us to number 3, which is public comment. So, Mr. Pittman.
So thank you, Mayor and Council. This is great discussion. I mean, I'm not feeling winners or losers. It's a great conversation to have, and then we can kind of put it to bed, and we can always revisit these things. So kudos to everybody to put the thought behind this and the commitment that even the work sessions need to change in some fashion. The last thing was just having comment after each topic on a work session. there again, part of our obligation is to not only just listen to staff, but to listen to the public and what their thoughts are. And sometimes just as much as we have questions after a presentation, so do the public. And then all we give them is, okay, you heard it, but next time you'll be able to comment at a business meeting. And so I think giving people an opportunity, we see it happen all the time where a specific group comes to talk about one thing. They get frustrated, and then we get the email of, well, I was the last agenda item and, you know, I should have been the first, and we get those arguments. But sometimes we can always move those in advance. If we know that changes to council meetings was going to be the hot topic, we can always move it to the first agenda item. But I think it never hurts to get public comment as much as we possibly can, as long as it's to that topic as well. I've seen people hijack meetings and then use every public comment to do something that had nothing to do with that topic. And I think as long as you're committed to keeping them to those topics, I don't see any harm in doing that.
Okay. I think at this point, let me just go to Ms. Dahl and ask her for her opinion on this here. Because I've heard it a few times, but I think everybody should hear it.
Mayor, my opinion about the public comment issue?
Yes, ma'am.
My opinion is going to align with what the law is. And there is an AG opinion that I believe I've already shared with all of you on this issue, and I'm happy to share it again, but only one comment period is required for a work session. Just one. It can be at the beginning, it can be at the end. It doesn't matter. We have always provided extra opportunity for public comment. And so this is completely your call to make as a council, as a body, how you want to allow for public comment, if you want to provide for more opportunities or not.
Thank you. Mr. Kay?
When you're done with this piece, my question is kind of listening and trying to do a better job on the presentation side. It connects, my thought process kind of connects with what Councilmember Pittman is saying, if I'm thinking this right. What I've coached our staff and myself is believing when we're in a work session or a regular meeting, there are people in the audience, there are people watching on television who have no idea what it is that we're doing unless we lay it out. But what I hear you saying is, hey, that is repetitive and a waste of our time. So taking tonight's example, we actually were not going to have the chief of police here. That item was not on the work session agenda. We thought we had enough direction in the fall that unequivocally the council wanted to move forward on an ordinance to improve the noise issue and speed. But I was asked, please put it on the work session. I want us to have the opportunity to hash it out here first. So that, what I could do, we honored that, never have a problem with that. I guess next week, I can't put it on consent. If I could put it on consent, I'd say put it on consent. You already got all the information this week, not thinking about paying as much attention to the public perspective. They already saw it a week before. But it is, ordinances are public hearings. We can shorten up that presentation or have no presentation at all. But I always am conscientious of the fact, or thinking about the fact, there are people watching who that's what they may see is just the action the night that you take the action. So however you want to guide that, we are interested in trying to make sure it's as effective as it can be for you and for the public to know what we're doing.
Thank you. Mr. Aspenleiter, you had your hand up first.
Yeah, on the public comment issue, I don't have a problem with public participation and public comment after these work session items. If that makes the public feel more complicated or more comfortable and engaged in the participation, I'm fine with that. It does put the onus on you that we don't hear about the sugar beet factory after every work session item. And I'm going to call point of order and be a real jerk if we start hearing that kind of repetitive door cracked open to ramble on about things that are not germane to the issue. And I'll be the biggest jerk in the room about calling point of order on those things on the public to stick to the facts in front of us. If we can collectively agree to that, I don't have a problem with public comment as long as it's germane to the issue that we're on that time.
Okay, who's next? Mr. Nicholson was first, so the question will be,
I like
keep it the
public
same or add more public?
I think having the public comment after each issue makes it more clear for everybody. I think we should get a big shepherd's hook or a gong, or the mayor could use his gavel.
Okay, thank you. I'll get a foghorn. Mr. Neese.
Yeah, I believe public comment closer to the issue is a better way to go. We understand after we've talked, we've heard the public. So often we have the public hearing and then if there's any direction to staff, sometimes we'll do that. So I think that is helpful to have a public input. I think former mayor used to always say, no two bites out of the apple. So not only non-relevant stuff, but you just can't come up at the beginning and talk about it. Then later on, after we've talked about it, come back and talk. So either make sure that they do not come up again or pull the general public comment on all the items since we're going to have it in between each item anyway. So just make sure it's only one bite out of the apple.
Mr. Pittman.
I'm obviously for more public comment.
Okay. Ms. Aguirre?
More public comment.
More. Mr. O'Donnell? Mr. Boyette?
Well, like tonight, you'd have public comment to start with, then there'd be 4 public comments after that, and then there'd be one after the agenda, 5, and the last one would be 6. So there's plenty in there. My concern is that we end up talking about the same thing 6 times, and that's what I'm afraid of. That's what I don't want.
So more, but the mayor better control it or he's in trouble.
I mean, seriously,
okay.
Yeah.
All right. Mr. Lindley?
Yeah, I like the idea of more public comment, but I think if we're going to do it after each issue, then I wonder if we have to have it at, the beginning and the end, right? So I think we should make some adjustments there. Not just add 4, keep the existing 2.
Not a bad idea. All right. Mr. Aspenleiter?
To that point, if we're going to do that, then I would recommend that public comment on non-agenda items be at the end. Not at the beginning, be at the end.
Okay. Mr. Kennedy?
As long as people don't repeat the same things over and over again. So Mayor, I put it in your hands. You're going to have to gavel them.
Guys, be careful what you wish for. So more public comment it is. It's pretty much 10-0. You guys have your advice to staff. All right. So we'll work on reforming the agenda, make sure that we're within stuff. So that leads us to a highlight of upcoming agenda items of council interest. Got anything for us, sir?
I mean, you're well aware of the hot issues coming up in the next 60 to 90 days. You got the 2045 plan. You got budget that'll start rolling through the Budget Finance Committee and ultimately up to this body in just a couple months out. So those are the big picture items. Those are the big, time policy attention ones. The other things are all kind of keeping things moving as far as service provision. So thank you.
Sounds good. Any council discussion? That moves us to public comment on non-agenda items. If you have any public comment, please come up and start the dawn of a new era.
Holy cow. Please don't be a jerk to me. I've prepared it in writing so I can try to stick to my 3 minutes for you.
Okay, speak into the microphone so we can hear you.
Let me try again. Okay, so Mayor Nelson, members of the council, thank you. Good evening. My name is Jonathan Angel. I'm a licensed clinical professional counselor. I testified before this council on January 12th. I'm here tonight to formally submit materials and to ask you respectfully, directly, to use the authority this body has. I've provided those both electronically and in writing. And so I want to begin by reminding you why I'm here. In December of 2023, two of my clients separately disclosed to me they had been sexually assaulted by their counselor at Montana Rescue Mission. I reported the allegations to the Billings Police Department and the Board of Behavioral Health as required by law. As the months passed, I became increasingly frustrated by the apparent lack of follow-up. So I wrote to the Attorney General. I was interviewed. Forgive me. I approached board member Russ Fagg to secure access to MRM's outside investigator and was interviewed by her on October 23rd, 2025. I attended the licensing board hearing regarding the alleged assaults as the named complainant in January, and I testified before this council. Tonight, I'm here again. I'm not a litigant. I have no financial stake in this. I'm a clinician who believes vulnerable people were harmed, that the harm was preventable, and that the systems designed to protect them have not functioned. Here's where things stand. More than 27 months have passed since I first reported this to the Billings Police Department. No criminal charges have been filed. In that time, however, the Montana Board of Behavioral Health convened a review committee hearing and found cause to believe the accused counselor had engaged in non-consensual sexual conduct with one client and a sexual relationship with a second. A civil lawsuit was filed on January 30th on behalf of both women. And it has been confirmed that MRM hired him despite public records showing his license had been suspended for, quote, dishonest, corrupt, and fraudulent behavior. The criminal investigation is commanded by Chief St. John. Chief St. John has a documented close personal relationship with Russ Fagg, a member of MRM's board of directors. That friendship was established through sworn testimony in a federal lawsuit. On May 9th, 2025, a federal court found a substantial likelihood that Chief St. John used his official authority for Mr. Fagg's personal benefit. I'm not here to tell you that Chief St. John deliberately suppressed this investigation. I'm here to tell you that the appearance of conflict and 27 months of inaction in the face of a formal cause to believe finding warrants your attention. I referred this matter over the past couple of days to the FBI Helena Field Office on March 13th, just last week, requesting federal review for potential grant fraud, Medicaid billing fraud, and the law enforcement command conflict I have described. Tonight, I'm submitting a cover letter addressed to the council, a core investigative report, a supporting evidentiary dossier, and a copy of the FBI referral. These documents identify the structural conflicts that have a compromised accountability at
Excuse
every
me, Mr.
level.
Engel. Sir, I hate to cut you off, but it is a 3-minute limit. Can you wrap it up? Good.
Factual, they represent more than 2 years of effort to understand why our systems have failed to deliver justice to these women and protect members of our community who are similarly at risk. Tonight, I'm asking 3 things from the council. First, that the council seek a formal briefing from the Billings Police Department on the status of this investigation and whether DCI assistance has been considered. Second, that the council review the city's funding relationship with MRM and related agencies in light of what these documents show. And third, that this council consider whether it would be appropriate to publicly acknowledge the documentation and testimony I've provided and respond to the women whose disclosure started this process. 30 years ago, Billings Police Chief Wayne Inman said, "Silence is acceptance to the community." I believe this council is better than silence. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Engel.
So that material is in hard copy for you. I am happy to discuss this with anybody at your convenience.
Thank you, sir. Any other public comment?
Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Jeff Kettleson. I live at 489 South 44th Street in the 5th Ward. A couple of thoughts. Thank you very much for allowing citizen comment. I appreciate it. And I'll try not to be Mr. B. You can call me Mr. Flannel. Anyways, one of the what I think one of the great things that you do is in a work session, you basically are educating the citizens. You know, you're talking about yourselves up there, but you're educating us of what's actually coming down the line. Because not a lot of people go to these meetings. As a matter of fact, nobody does. I'm just kind of weird. I like to go. But so I really appreciate that you decided to keep the work session meetings. To your point, I do agree that it sometimes gets way too long. I appreciate that. You know, the airport thing. I do agree with Councilmember Kennedy that it does remove a layer of impediment. But really the question gets to be is, you know, somebody up there said, hey, I don't even know these people on the board. Well, that means you're doing a good job. If you don't hear from them, they're doing a good job. And the way that I look at it is if you decide to create airport authority, you're actually removing yourselves as the ultimate authority of it. And that's the point. You know, I remember when it was brought up about, I don't know, there was 15 things that the state of Montana could we do, and we were going to only do 5, and we already did 5. And I talked against that at that time because the citizens want to come to you because you're our representatives. We vote you in. We expect accountability from you. And I think that's at the base core, every single one of you, that's the reason why you decided to serve. And I thank you very much for that because you're in a very untenable situation. So, you know, anytime that the talks come up about acquiescing our power away to either the administration or another authority, I disagree with it 100%. The point that you brought up about the cost that we paid already, yes, absolutely. You know, anyways, thank you very much for your time. I hope I didn't bother you too much.
Anyone else? All right, thank you. We are adjourned. 7:38.